There is a truth that many of us hide from. Our mothers gave us more than life. They gave us patterns of survival, songs of sorrow, and dreams they could not finish. Some of those gifts are radiant: strength, resilience, beauty. But some of them are burdens, handed down quietly like folded clothes in a suitcase. You may not see them, but you wear them every day. This is not a speech about blame, but about awakening. Because if you do not see what was given to you, you will repeat it. If you do not speak what was silent, you will suffocate in it. And if you do not heal what was wounded, your children will inherit the same unspoken ache. Stay with me, for what I share with you tonight may free you from carrying pain that was never meant to be yours alone. Pain does not vanish just because the person who felt it first has passed on. It does not dissolve when the tears dry or when the lips fall silent. Pain has a way of traveling, of embedding itself into the fabric of families, into the rhythm of lives, into the very blood that courses through us. You may think that the fears you feel, the sudden sadness that has no name, the tension that tightens your chest in quiet moments, belong only to you. But in truth, some of that weight is borrowed. It came from the women and men who lived before you, from your mother who carried her own invisible storms. It traveled from her into you silently, without permission, without announcement. It is the inheritance nobody asked for, but so many of us have received. Think of the way your mother laughed. Perhaps it was bold and wide, filling a room with joy. Or perhaps it was careful, controlled, softened so that no one would think she was too much. Even in that laughter, you can sometimes hear the echoes of what she endured. A woman who had to fight for respect laughs differently than a woman who has always been free to be herself. A woman who has had her voice silenced too many times learns to speak with her eyes instead of her mouth. Those patterns, those adjustments become a part of how she loves, how she raises, how she comforts. And without ever teaching you in words, she taught you through her being. That is how pain travels, not in sentences, but in gestures, not in books, but in behaviors. When you were a child, you may have noticed moments when your mother grew quiet for no reason. You may not have understood why her eyes filled with shadows when certain topics arose. You may not have known why she sometimes seemed worried about things you could not see. Those were her memories speaking, her body remembering what her mouth would not say. Trauma does not always cry out loud. Sometimes it hides in stillness. Sometimes it hides in caution. And a child, sensitive and open, absorbs those lessons without needing explanation. You learn to watch. You learn to feel. You learn to carry her anxieties inside your own chest. And now, as an adult, you sometimes find yourself anxious for no reason or fearful of things that should not scare you. That is the invisible inheritance. Some of us mistake this inheritance for personality. We say, I've always been this way. I've always been quiet. I've always been afraid of abandonment. I've always been too quick to please. But if you trace the roots of those feelings, you will often find your mother's shadow there. You will see the moments she felt abandoned, the time she had to silence herself to survive, the way she was taught to sacrifice her needs for the sake of peace. Without ever telling you to copy her, she passed those habits down to you. Because pain does not only live in memory, it lives in muscle, in instinct, in survival. Consider this. Science itself shows that trauma can alter the way our very genes express themselves. A mother who has lived through deep suffering carries that imprint not only in her mind, but in her biology. When she gives birth, some of that imprint is carried into her child. This means that you are not only dealing with the echoes of her story, but also the biology of her survival. The fear you sometimes feel was not born in your mind alone. It may have been carried to you in the blood, in the cells, in the silent code of your being. This does not mean you are doomed to repeat her life, but it does mean you must awaken to what has been passed down so you can name it, face it, and release it. Think of how powerful this truth is. If pain can travel through generations, so can healing. If her trauma could find its way into your body, so can your courage find its way into the future. But to begin that healing, you must first honor the truth. You are carrying more than just your own story. You are carrying hers too. When you see the patterns in your life that confuse you, do not only look at yourself, ask, whose voice is this? Whose fear am I carrying? Whose silence lives in me? The answers will often point back to your mother, to your grandmother, to the women who came before you. There is no shame in admitting this. It is not weakness to say, this fear is not mine alone. In fact, it is strength, because by recognizing the origin, you free yourself from believing you are simply broken. You are not broken. You are burdened with a story that began before you. And when you realize that, you can begin to separate what belongs to you from what does not. You can begin to hand back what was never yours to carry. Picture a chain being passed down through time, link by link. Each generation adds its own piece, its own metal forged from its own struggles. Your mother handed you the chain, not because she wanted to, but because she did not know how to set it down. You now hold it in your hands, and the question becomes, will you continue to carry it, or will you be the one who breaks it? Will you let the pain keep traveling, or will you say, it stops with me? That choice, that power belongs to you. Pain travels through generations, yes, but it does not have to keep traveling. You have been given awareness. You have been given the ability to look behind you and say, I see what was handed down. That vision is your weapon. That knowledge is your key. And when you dare to face it, you are no longer just the carrier of pain. You become the breaker of chains, the one who transforms inheritance into freedom. Love is not a simple thing, clean and untouched by the shadows of suffering. It does not arrive flawless, wrapped neatly in ribbons of perfection. Love comes through people, and people are shaped by their histories, their losses, their silences. This means love can carry both tenderness and trauma. It can be both balm and bruise. The love you received from your mother is proof of this. She may have adored you, given her whole heart to you, and still passed on wounds she never knew how to heal. The two do not cancel each other out. They live together, tangled in the same embrace. It is easy to think in absolutes, to imagine that if someone wounded you, then perhaps they did not love you, or if they loved you deeply, then they could not have harmed you. But life is never that neat. Your mother may have loved you more fiercely than she ever loved anyone else. And still, the love she gave was shaped by her own bruises. A mother who was taught to silence her needs may have loved you by teaching you to silence yours. A mother who never knew safety may have loved you with a nervous heart, overprotective, fearful of letting you into the world. A mother who was never cherished may have poured her love into you, but also leaned on you for validation she did not receive elsewhere. Love was there, but so was wound. Think about the way she held you. Her arms may have been the safest place you ever knew, but those arms also carried their own story. If she had been hurt, if she had been abandoned, if she had been left to carry too much alone, then some of that sorrow seeped into the way she cradled you. She gave you comfort, but sometimes, unknowingly, she gave you her anxieties too. That does not mean she loved you less. It means her love came with layers, layers of tenderness, layers of fear, layers of pain she never asked for herself. There is a temptation to simplify our mothers, to make them either saints or villains, to say she loved me and was perfect, or she wounded me and did not love me. But the truth is richer and more complicated. She was human. She was flawed. She was carrying her own invisible backpack filled with burdens, and she loved you the best she could while carrying it. Her wounds did not erase her love, just as her love did not erase her wounds. Sometimes, as children, we grow up believing that love must feel pure, unblemished. So when we notice the cracks, when we feel the pain that came with love, we question if it was ever real. But love is not invalidated by imperfection. In fact, imperfect love is the most human kind. The mother who snapped in exhaustion but still rose the next morning to care for you, she loved you. The mother who struggled to express affection, who was guarded, who seemed distant but never stopped providing, she loved you. The mother who made mistakes, who spoke in ways that left scars, but who also sacrificed parts of herself to give you a chance. She loved you. The wound and the love were intertwined, and you carry both inside you. Sometimes you carry the comfort she gave, the strength, the resilience, the warmth. Other times you carry the anxieties, the insecurities, the habits of self-denial. This is the complexity of inheritance. It is never just one thing. You inherit both her light and her shadow. You inherit both her devotion and her pain. Understanding this truth does not mean excusing harm, nor does it mean denying love. It means holding both with honesty. Imagine a tree. Its roots run deep into soil that is both nourishing and polluted. The tree grows strong branches that offer shade and fruit, but some of its leaves are spotted, some of its bark is scarred. Does this mean the tree is not alive, not giving, not beautiful? No, it means it is real. Your mother's love was like that tree, born out of soil that held both richness and poison. She gave you what she could, and sometimes what she gave held traces of her own unhealed suffering. Acknowledging this does something powerful. It frees you from extremes. You no longer have to worship her as flawless, nor condemn her as loveless. You can see her as a whole person, a woman who was both strong and struggling, both loving and hurting. You can honor the love without denying the wound, and name the wound without erasing the love. This perspective also softens the way you see yourself. For if love and wound can live together in your mother, they can live together in you too. You may love with all your heart and still hurt those you care about. You may mean well, yet carry forward patterns that harm. Understanding this helps you approach yourself with compassion. You are not failing because you sometimes wound those you love. You are human, just like she was. And awareness gives you the chance to break the cycle, to let the wound be seen, so love does not have to share space with as much pain in the future. It is important to remember that your mother's wounds were not chosen. Much of what she carried was given to her by her own parents, her own history, her own environment. Just as you inherited invisible pain, so did she. And yet, despite that, she still chose to love you in the ways she knew how. That is no small thing. That is a testimony to the power of love, to rise even when broken, to give even when empty, to care even when scarred. When you look at your life, when you look at the mixture of tenderness and tension you received, hold it all. Do not deny the parts that hurt, for they are real. But do not deny the love either, for it is real too. The wound and the love were partners, and they lived side by side in the same woman, in the same embrace, in the same story. And now they live in you. Silence is not empty. It speaks in ways words never can. It has a weight, a rhythm, a presence that lingers in the air long after the moment has passed. Many of us grew up in houses where silence lived like a permanent guest, sitting at the dinner table, walking the halls, following us into our rooms. Our mothers carried silences that were not chosen, but inherited. They swallowed their cries because no one would listen. They buried their truths because speaking them would invite judgment or danger. That silence became its own language. And as children, we learn to understand it long before we understood the spoken word. Perhaps your mother never told you the full story of her childhood, but you knew when she was remembering it. You saw it in the faraway look in her eyes, in the way her body stiffened when certain names were spoken, in the heaviness that entered the room without explanation. She did not have to say, "I was hurt," for you to feel the residue of her pain. You translated her pauses, her sighs, her sudden withdrawals. You became fluent in silence. That was her language, and she taught it without meaning to. Children are experts at reading what is unsaid. They watch, they feel, they absorb. If your mother went quiet when conflict arose, you learned that silence was the way to keep peace. If she never spoke about her dreams, you learned that silence was safer than disappointment. If she held her suffering behind closed lips, you learned that silence was strength. These lessons take root, and they do not leave easily. Even now, as an adult, you may find yourself struggling to speak when you are hurting. You may retreat into silence because it feels familiar, even when your heart aches for someone to hear you. But silence, though it feels protective, often becomes a prison. What begins as survival hardens into habit. A mother who silenced herself to stay safe passed down a child who silences themselves out of fear of rejection. A mother who never named her suffering raised a child who struggles to name theirs. The silence becomes generational, a thread running through the family like an invisible chain. And so, without words, pain is handed down. Without confession, shame multiplies. Without language, healing delays itself. Yet silence is not only destructive, it is also complex. Sometimes silence is dignity. Sometimes it is the refusal to let the world see you broken. Sometimes it is the only power left when everything else has been taken. For many women, for many mothers, silence was not weakness. It was strategy. It was a way to protect their children from truths too heavy, from stories too dark, from realities too raw. Silence was how they shielded what they loved, even as it starved them of expression. In this way, silence became an act of love, though it was also an act of suffering. To grow up in such silence is to inherit both its strength and its cost. You may find that you too can endure without speaking. You may pride yourself on your ability to carry burdens quietly without asking for help. And yes, there is resilience in that, but there is also loneliness. For silence builds walls, and walls may keep harm out, but they also keep love out. The very silence that once protected you may now isolate you. If you listen closely, you will notice that silence has its own vocabulary. A slammed door speaks loudly. Averted eyes speak volumes. The absence of touch, the meals eaten without conversation, the tears wiped away before anyone could see them. These are sentences written in silence. And once you have learned to read them, you can never unlearn them. You begin to notice when others go quiet, when they retreat, when they bite back their words. And sometimes you respond in kind, continuing the cycle of unsaid truths. Breaking that cycle begins with a radical act, choosing to speak where silence once ruled. This does not mean betraying your mother or shaming her for her quietness. It means honoring her story by refusing to let it end with unspoken pain. When you say aloud what she could not, you give her silence a voice. When you name the patterns she endured, you do not dishonor her, you redeem her. You take the language of silence and translate it into words that can heal. But this is not easy. Speaking after generations of silence feels like breaking a sacred code. Your throat tightens, your chest aches, your tongue feels heavy. You may fear that speaking the truth will undo everything, will make you disloyal, will bring shame. That fear is part of the inheritance too. But remember, silence was once a shield, but you are no longer fighting the same battles your mother fought. What protected her may be suffocating you. What saved her may be slowly burying you. To honor her, you must choose differently. Think of silence like an heirloom passed down through the family. It sits in the corner of the house, dusty, never spoken of, but always there. Each generation adds to it by leaving things unsaid. You have the power to finally open it, to air it out, to decide what stays and what goes. You have the power to turn silence into speech, shame into story, secrecy into strength. There is courage in speaking. But there is also tenderness in understanding why your mother stayed silent. She did not keep secrets because she lacked love. She kept them because she wanted to survive. She kept them because she thought she was protecting you. She kept them because the world she lived in did not give her the space to say her truth. When you recognize this, you hold both compassion and responsibility. Compassion for her silence, responsibility to end your own. In time, you may find that silence does not have to vanish entirely. It can be sacred when chosen. Silence can be rest, reflection, prayer, but it should not be forced, and it should not be born of fear. The silence you create consciously is different from the silence inherited unconsciously. One gives life, the other drains it. The work of healing is to transform one into the other. So when you feel your throat closing, when you feel yourself retreating into silence, pause and ask, is this silence protecting me or is it chaining me? Is it born of wisdom or of fear? Is it my own or is it hers, living still inside me? In those questions, you will find your power. And in your voice, when you choose to use it, you will find your freedom. There are dreams that are lived and dreams that are buried. Some bloom under the sun, stretching wide in freedom. Others are folded carefully and hidden away, never given the chance to breathe. Your mother carried both. She carried the dreams she could not live, the desires she was told to silence, the ambitions the world told her were too large for her hands. And though she may not have spoken them to you, though she may never have dared to chase them herself, those dreams did not die. They found their way into you. You carry them in your bones. Look closely at your own longings, at the fire that stirs in you when you imagine the life you desire. That passion did not spring up out of nowhere. Some of it is yours, born of your own experiences, your own hunger, but some of it is older. Some of it belongs to her, the version of herself she could not become, the life she imagined but never touched. When you feel yourself pulled toward freedom, toward creativity, toward joy that feels larger than what you have known, you are not only reaching for yourself, you are reaching for her too. Consider the way you move through the world. Maybe you crave education because she was denied it. Maybe you long for travel because she was tied to one place. Maybe you hunger for a love that celebrates you because she knew only love that diminished her. These desires, these deep pulls of the soul are not accidents. They are inheritances. They live in you because she carried them in silence. She may have given up on them, but she planted them in you all the same. There is something sacred about this truth. You are not just your own becoming, you are her continuation. You are the page she could not finish writing. When you stand in your courage, you are carrying her too. When you speak with your voice, you are giving sound to her silence. When you take up space in the world, you are expanding the space she was denied. Every step you take toward freedom, she is walking beside you in spirit, finally tasting what she longed for through your skin, your breath, your choices. It is tempting to believe that our dreams are selfish, that they belong to us alone. But dreams are communal, generational. They move through bloodlines. They shift from one body to the next, searching for a place where they can finally live. Your mother may have been the soil, and you are the blossom. Her sacrifices, her restraints, her compromises were not the end of the story. They were the foundation upon which your life was built. You were born with her unfinished songs humming inside you, waiting for your voice to release them. This inheritance is not a burden, it is a gift. Yet it can feel heavy because sometimes you feel the pressure of carrying not only your own destiny, but hers too. You may feel guilty for wanting more than she had. You may feel torn between honoring her sacrifices and chasing your own desires. But understand this. When you rise, you do not betray her. You fulfill her. Your joy does not diminish her story, it redeems it. Your freedom does not dishonor her struggles, it gives them purpose. She did not endure so that you would repeat her limitations. She endured so that you could break them. Think about the moments when she looked at you with quiet pride, even if she never said it. Perhaps she saw in you the courage she wished she had. Perhaps she noticed the boldness in your voice and felt a flicker of her own unspoken dreams. She may not have encouraged you directly. Sometimes her fear of the world made her cautious, but deep down, she wanted you to go further than she did. Mothers often carry a hope that their children will reach heights they could not climb, will open doors they could not unlock. That hope, that silent blessing, is stitched into the marrow of your bones. So when you feel yourself doubting, when you question whether you are worthy of your dreams, remember that you are not dreaming alone. You are accompanied by the echoes of her desire, the fragments of her prayers, the whispers of her longing. She dreamed through you before you even knew how to speak. You are the vessel for more than one story. That is why your passion feels so alive, so urgent, because it carries more than one heartbeat. Do not be afraid of surpassing her. Do not be afraid of becoming more visible, more free, more alive than she ever was. That is not betrayal, that is fulfillment. It is the victory she never got to taste. When you rise, you lift her with you. When you achieve what she could not, you bring honor to her sacrifices. Your freedom is not just for you, it is for her. For every dream she folded away, for every chance she was told she could not take. There will be days when chasing your dreams feels too hard, when the weight of them feels unbearable. On those days, remember her. Remember the strength she showed simply by surviving, by carrying life forward in her body, by enduring what she had to endure. If she could carry all that and still keep going, then you can carry her dreams with you as you walk forward. You do not walk alone. You walk with the power of those who came before you, with the resilience of generations. So lean into your longing. Trust the voice inside you that calls you towards something greater. It is not selfish. It is sacred. It is not fantasy. It is inheritance. And every time you take a step closer to the life you desire, know that you are not only shaping your own destiny, you are fulfilling hers. You are carrying her dreams in your bones, giving them breath, giving them form, giving them the chance to live at last. Healing is often misunderstood. People think that when you begin to name the pain, you are pointing a finger. They assume that when you speak about what hurt you, you are accusing the one who raised you. But healing is not about casting blame. It is not about putting your mother on trial, weighing her failures against her love. Healing is about truth. Healing is about freedom. Healing is about choosing not to carry wounds in silence anymore. Your mother was human. That is the beginning and the end of it. Human beings love and human beings fail. Human beings nurture and human beings wound. To pretend she was perfect is to deny her humanity. To pretend she was only harmful is to deny her humanity too. Healing lives in the middle space where you can hold both truths at once. She loved you fiercely, and she also hurt you. She wanted the best for you, and she also passed down pain she never resolved. This is not about assigning guilt. This is about seeing clearly so you can live clearly. When you begin to heal, when you start unraveling the knots tied inside you since childhood, you might feel guilt rise up in your chest. You might hear a voice whisper, if you name this, you are dishonoring her. If you face this, you are betraying her. But those voices come from fear, not from truth. Honoring your mother does not mean silencing yourself. Honoring her means acknowledging her whole story, the parts that gave you strength and the parts that gave you scars. If you keep only the good and bury the rest, you are not loving her fully. You are creating a shadow version of her. True love includes the light and the dark. Think about it this way. When you go to a doctor with an injury, the doctor does not accuse you of causing it. They examine it, they clean it, they treat it. Healing requires honesty, not accusation. When you examine the wounds you carry from your mother, you are not condemning her. You are treating yourself. You are cleaning what has festered. You are tending to what was broken. You are refusing to let it infect the rest of your life. That is not blame. That is care. Blame freezes us. It traps us in resentment, in anger, in pointing outward. Healing moves us. It opens us to compassion, to perspective, to growth. When you begin to heal, you often find yourself seeing your mother differently. You begin to notice the girl she once was, the girl who had her own mother shaping her, wounding her, teaching her silence. You begin to realize that much of what she passed down was not malicious. It was inherited. She carried pain that did not begin with her, and she handed it on without even realizing. This does not excuse the impact it had on you, but it explains it. And in that explanation, there is room for forgiveness, or at least for understanding. There is a great freedom in saying, I was hurt, but she did not mean to hurt me, or I carry her wounds, but I choose to transform them. This is the heart of healing, to release the chains without cutting yourself off from love, to let the truth be spoken without drowning in bitterness, to break the cycle not out of anger, but out of love for yourself, for her, and for those who come after you. Healing also means reclaiming power. As long as you refuse to look at the wounds, you remain bound by them. They control your reactions, your relationships, your choices. You may find yourself repeating patterns you swore you would escape. You may find yourself carrying fears that are not even yours. But when you begin to name them, to hold them up to the light, something shifts. You are no longer a passive inheritor. You are an active transformer. You say, this is what was passed to me. I see it, I honor it, and I choose differently. That choice is where freedom begins. Your mother may never have had that choice. She may never have had the safety, the awareness, or the resources to heal in her own time. She may have been trapped in survival mode, unable to step back and examine her own scars. But you do. You live in a different season. You have the chance to name what she could not name, to heal what she could not touch. And in doing so, you are not just healing yourself, you are healing her too. You are carrying her story forward, giving it a chance to evolve, to grow, to breathe in a new way. Some people resist this process because they confuse blame with truth. They think to speak of pain is to dishonor, to betray, to turn away, but it is the opposite. Silence dishonors. Silence keeps the wound festering, keeps the story incomplete. Speaking the truth, lovingly, openly, courageously, is the greatest honor you can give. It says, I see you in your fullness. I see your love. I see your pain. I carry both, and I choose to rise with both. Healing without blame requires humility. It requires you to acknowledge that you too may pass on wounds if you are not careful. It requires you to see that one day your children or those you love may need to heal from what you gave them. And just as you do not want them to live in blame but in freedom, so too must you walk that path with your mother. You accept that all of us are both healers and hurters, both givers and takers, both lovers and breakers. To be human is to hold that paradox. When you remember this, healing becomes an act of mercy. Mercy for yourself, mercy for your mother, mercy for the generations behind and ahead. You stop asking, whose fault is this? And start asking, what can I do with it now? That shift is the turning point. That shift transforms pain into wisdom, wounds into lessons, silence into voice. So healing is not about blame. It is about liberation. It is about refusing to carry anger as your only inheritance. It is about choosing compassion without denying truth. It is about standing in the messy, complicated middle ground where love and pain meet and saying, I accept both and I rise above both. That is where your power lives. That is where the cycle ends. That is where the new story begins. You are the turning point. You stand in a place that your mother may never have stood, in a moment that her mother before her may never have imagined. You are not only an inheritor of the past, you are also the doorway to the future. What you choose to carry, what you choose to release, and what you choose to transform will ripple forward in ways you cannot measure. The line of pain and silence that has moved through your family does not have to move through you unchanged. You are the one who can stop, breathe, and say, it ends here, it changes here, with me. When you begin to recognize yourself as the turning point, the weight may feel heavy. It may feel like responsibility pressing down on your shoulders, as though you must carry generations and repair them all at once. But being the turning point is not about shouldering the burden of everyone who came before you. It is about reclaiming the power you have right now. It is about refusing to live blind to the wounds you inherited. It is about choosing consciousness where once there was only reaction. You cannot rewrite the stories of the past, but you can shape the stories of what comes next. Every family carries both gifts and griefs. Perhaps your mother handed you strength, the ability to endure, to survive, to work harder than most. But along with that strength, she may have also handed you fear or shame or silence. Being the turning point means you take the gifts and honor them, and you take the griefs and transform them. You do not pass them along in the same form you received them. You become the filter, the translator, the transformer. There is a sacred courage in saying, I will not raise my children in the same silence I was raised in. I will not treat myself with the same cruelty that was normalized for me. I will not allow bitterness to be my inheritance. That courage is not loud. It is often quiet and steady, lived out in daily choices. The courage to pause before speaking words that would wound. The courage to apologize when you fall short. The courage to look at yourself with tenderness instead of judgment. These small acts are not small at all. They are the breaking of chains. To be the turning point is also to recognize that healing is not a solitary act. You are not simply saving yourself, you are creating space for everyone connected to you. When you begin to heal, your relationships shift. You bring more honesty, more presence, more compassion into the way you love others. And that love spreads. It touches your children, your siblings, your community. Your healing becomes a kind of light that others can see by, even if they do not know exactly what you are doing. It is easy to think of trauma as something inevitable, something unstoppable, but it is not. It is carried forward only when no one stops to question it. The moment someone pauses to look closely, to ask, why do we live this way? Why do we keep repeating this? The cycle begins to weaken. You are that pause. You are that question. You are that interruption to the endless repetition of pain. By naming what others refuse to name, you bring it into the light, and in the light, change becomes possible. Sometimes being the turning point feels lonely. You may feel misunderstood by those who prefer silence. You may be told that you are stirring up old wounds, that you are ungrateful, that you are breaking traditions better left untouched. But know this, every cycle that has ever been broken was broken by someone who dared to stand apart, someone who loved enough to face the truth, someone who carried the courage to be misunderstood for the sake of freedom. You are not betraying your family when you heal. You are honoring them by refusing to let their pain be the final word. And here is the beautiful paradox. When you take up this role, you do not only stop what was harmful, you also release what was good. Your healing allows the love that was tangled up with pain to flow more freely. Your mother's laughter, her resilience, her dreams, those parts of her live more clearly in you when the shadows are lifted. By being the turning point, you are not erasing her. You are helping her shine through you without the distortion of unhealed wounds. Imagine generations yet to come. They may never know the details of your struggle. They may never know the nights you sat with tears in your eyes, naming pain for the first time, but they will feel the effects. They will live in a home where love does not carry the same chains. They will grow up with more space to breathe, to speak, to be themselves. They will inherit freedom instead of silence. And they will carry that freedom forward without even realizing the price you paid for it. That is the gift of being the turning point. You give to those you may never meet. This role also calls for patience. Cycles do not break in a single day. Patterns built over generations take time to unravel. You may stumble. You may find yourself slipping back into old habits, speaking words you swore you would never repeat. But being the turning point is not about perfection. It is about persistence. Every time you catch yourself and choose differently, you are writing a new story. Every small choice matters. Do not underestimate the power of the gradual. Do not underestimate the strength of daily, deliberate change. You may wonder, why me? Why am I the one to carry this role? The answer is not in luck or punishment, it is in awareness. You see what others could not see. You feel what others could not bear to feel. Awareness is both gift and responsibility. Once you see the cycle, you cannot unsee it. And in that seeing, you are given the power to shift it. The truth has chosen you, and in choosing you, it has made you strong enough to bear it. So you are the turning point, the place where silence becomes voice, where pain becomes wisdom, where inheritance becomes choice. You are the bridge between what was and what will be. You are the one who honors your mother's humanity without repeating her wounds. You are the one who carries both her love and her longing and turns them into something new. Your healing is her redemption. Every step you take toward wholeness is not only for you, it is also for the woman who gave you life. Your healing is not a rejection of her. It is the continuation of her story, the chapter she could not write for herself. What she buried, you unearth. What she silenced, you give voice to. What she carried as shame, you release into light. In your healing, she is not condemned, she is transformed. Through you, her wounds can finally rest. Her struggles can finally find peace. Think of the women who came before you, your mother, her mother, and the mothers stretching back beyond memory. Each of them endured. Each of them carried burdens that were not always theirs. Some carried abandonment, others carried violence. Some carried the bitter taste of unfulfilled dreams. They held their pain in their bodies, in their silences, in the way they raised children to be strong because the world would not be gentle. Yet in their survival was also a cry for something more. In their silence was also a longing for voice. They may not have had the tools, the safety, or the language to heal, but you do. And when you choose to use them, you are not turning your back on them. You are answering their unspoken prayer. Many of us fear that if we admit our mothers hurt us, we dishonor them. But healing is not dishonor. It is devotion. It is a love fierce enough to face the truth. It is a love brave enough to say, I see all of you, the beauty and the brokenness, and I choose to carry your story forward in a new way. Your mother's redemption is not in pretending she never erred, but in allowing her story to evolve beyond the limits of her time and pain. Your healing gives her that chance. Imagine your mother as a young girl, carrying wounds before she even knew they were wounds. She was shaped by the same forces that shaped you: expectations, silences, losses, fears. Some of those forces she resisted, some she absorbed. When she became a mother, she carried all of it into her love for you. That love may have been heavy with her unhealed pain, but it was still love. To heal yourself now is to honor both parts of her, the girl who longed to be free and the woman who did the best she knew how. In your healing, the girl inside her finally breathes. Your healing also speaks to the parts of your mother that felt invisible. How many dreams did she tuck away because she thought they were impossible? How many tears did she swallow because she believed no one could hold them? When you choose to dream despite fear, when you choose to speak despite trembling, when you choose to rest without guilt, you redeem those parts of her. You live out what she wished for but never reached. Your healing is her life lived again, this time with freedom. There is also another truth. Your healing may free her in ways you may never witness. She may not admit her wounds. She may never apologize. She may even resist your growth, afraid of what it says about her own choices. But still, your healing touches her spirit. It creates space between you where defensiveness once stood. It creates the possibility of compassion where bitterness used to reign. Even if she never changes, something shifts in the unseen thread between you. Your healing loosens the knots of generations, and whether she recognizes it or not, she feels that loosening. To be clear, redemption does not mean erasing what happened. It does not mean excusing harm or pretending pain was not real. Redemption means transformation. It means taking what was broken and allowing it to become the seed of something whole. Your healing transforms suffering into wisdom, silence into truth, fear into courage. Every step you take toward your own wholeness is also a step that lifts her name, her blood, her lineage out of the shadows. You are not erasing her. You are rewriting her story with more honesty, more compassion, more hope. Think about how powerful this is. You, standing here today, have the ability to redeem centuries of silence. The hurt that passed down through whispers, through clenched jaws, through sleepless nights does not have to continue. By facing it, you free not only yourself, but also the women who could not. That is how healing works. It travels backward as much as forward. It blesses the ancestors as much as it blesses the descendants. Your healing is a gift in every direction. And it is not only about family. When you heal, you show others what is possible. You become a living witness that cycles can be broken, that silence can be broken, that pain does not have to be the only inheritance. Your friends, your community, even strangers may see in you a courage they long for. In that way, your healing redeems more than just your mother. It redeems a piece of humanity. It proves that no story is too wounded to be rewritten. There will be days when healing feels like betrayal, when your chest aches with guilt for naming truths she never spoke. But remember this: Your silence does not protect her. Your silence only keeps the wound alive. Your healing, though it may sting at first, is what finally gives her rest. It allows her to be seen fully, not as a saint and not as a villain, but as a woman. And in that full seeing, she is loved more completely than she ever was in denial. So do not be afraid. Your healing is not selfish. It is not cruel. It is the most generous act you can offer your mother. It says, I refuse to let your suffering be the end of your story. I choose to take the broken pieces and shape them into something whole. I choose to let your life move through me as a force for freedom, not for fear. That is redemption. That is grace. That is love at its most powerful. Your healing is her redemption because in you, her love is purified, her pain is transformed, and her story is renewed. Through you, she rises. Through you, she is forgiven, even if she never asked. Through you, her life, with all its contradictions, finds a home in freedom. And in that freedom, you both are made new. So hear me when I say, the invisible trauma you inherited from your mother does not have to define you. It may have shaped your beginning, but it does not have to decide your ending. You can choose to stop carrying what was never yours to hold. You can choose to turn her pain into power, her silence into song, her brokenness into beauty. And when you do, you will not only heal yourself, you will heal her. You will heal the daughters and sons yet to come. You will stand as living proof that though pain may pass through generations, so can freedom.